South African poetry landscape, and taking the landscape. Let's now chat to Vus'umuzi Phakathi, and he's just celebrated 12 years as a poet. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning to you. Thank you for having me, man.
All right.
Yeah.
You just recently celebrated 12 years as a poet. How do you do that?
Hey, you stick it out. You stick it out. It's been a very interesting journey,
Sure.
from the ups and the downs. In this country, it's a feat to live as a poet.
Right.
So having to have this as my bread and butter has been the most exciting, at times most challenging.
Sure.
Experience, really.
And for those who don't know you, who are seeing you for the first time, who is Vus'umuzi Phakathi and what do you do?
Baguphi bangibona for the first time?
Good question.
Where have you been? Where have you been seeing me for the first time right now? Vus'umuzi Phakathi is a poet from the Vaal, south of Joburg. I started writing, I think, in 2002, but started performing in 2005. And I've been working as a professional poet for 12 years now, so from 2005 until now. Last Saturday, I was celebrating 12 years of being a poet at the Vets Great Hall. So we took a one-man poetry show directed by an amazing man by the name of William Harding. We had an audience of over 400, which was quite a feat for South African poetry, People don't usually come out for South African poetry, and people came out. People parted with their money to come celebrate poetry with me, with us rather, which was something amazing.
Yeah, and having been a poet for over a decade now, what are some of the peaks and some of the plunges or the challenges you've experienced along the way?
The plunges are being kicked out because of not having paid rent. In the middle of the night, the landlord is there. You come back from a show, you find the landlord in his house, there with his friends. Like, pack your stuff and be out.
That's something, man.
Because you can't pay rent, And the peaks have been, and this is more financial than anything else. The peaks have been being able to buy a plot from poetry or buy a jeep from poetry. But the greatest feat, though, for me has been people coming and saying, "You've changed my life," People coming and saying, I was at the edge of suicide, but after being in contact with your work, I was able to face the next step. People saying, my husband and I were at the edge of divorce. And then that poem. So it's always so amazing how a poem can shift a whole experience, a whole relationship. And that, for me, that has been the thing that has kept me here, actually. The ability to change lives.
Sure.
And having seen that, I believe I'm here for the long run.
Yeah. Let's talk about the state of poetry in South Africa. Where are we at this stage? What are your views on it?
We are at a point where it's rare to find a poet who is a full-time poet. Comedy is at a point where comics can live off comedy. They can sell out 1,000 seaters. They have endorsements here and there and there. They can tour the world. Hip-hop has far surpassed that. Hip-hop fills up stadiums now.
And can poets live off poetry, though?
It's rare.
It's rare, hey?
It's rare. It's been very difficult. I've a number of friends who we studied together, and a lot of them are doing. Some have even found themselves in spaces of call centers, where I've been there also.
Okay.
Where it got so hard, I went to go work at a call center. You know what I mean? But we are getting there. I'm seeing in my life, I'm seeing a very comfortable life from poetry, and that's the reason why I'm still here, to say my wish is for someone to say I'm a poet, and that's their job. That's what they do. So I'm seeing that work, and I'm hoping that what I'm working towards is for people to follow on that route.
And what advice do you have for aspiring poets?
Aspiring poets who are already doing it, or those who are still at school?
Both.
Both, okay. If you're still at school, study. If you're still at school, study. Don't drop out here wanting to come and be a poet here.
Doesn't work like that.
It's not easy
Yeah.
here. It's
Yeah.
not easy here. So do not drop out and try to do that. Study, finish your studies, work. So if you want to be an artist full time, then study something that's related to the arts. Your odds will be easier. But if you're going to drop out and just try to do this, it's difficult here. Life is not nice here. So study and get that going. But if you're already in this, you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent. That's it.
Now that you've reached this milestone, where to from here?
More auditoriums to fill up.
Yeah.
I did a tour in 2013 and 2014 around the country, neighboring countries. I even did the United States. I'm planning to do more of that.
Wow.
Yeah. And
You're going places. Chief.
yes,
No,
yes,
you're going
yes,
places.
absolutely.
Give us a line.
of poetry. When in search for a life partner, seek for yourself a home.
Yo.
A dwelling place for your being and a refuge for your mind. Seek for yourself one that you would be free to be yourself with. Seek for you. But first, seek for yourself.
Come on, dude. Thank you so much for chatting to us, man.
Thank you.
And all the best in your poetry.
Thank you very much.
Siyabonga.
Sure.
Well, that's Vus'umuzi Phakathi. He's a poet, a writer, performer, producer. Well, he's been speaking to us about his over a decade worth of work he's been doing as a poet, and as well as helping us break down the current state of South African poetry. All right, let's now go back to Pearl. Pearl?
Well, Sims, we're ushering the festive season, and a lot of our viewers are sharing what their plans for this festive seasons are. So let's take a look at what you've been saying on our Twitter timeline. All right, Music Lover says, loving it, Kelly Kumalo on Morning Live SABC this morning. That voice, well, I completely agree. She is terrific. Sizwe Bayi says, big up to the numbers that came out. Just saw you on Morning Live SABC. Well, Star Chalale says, I love